I think more shock and dauntingness was more of the feeling I felt. But
From soldier's wife to royal mistress to royal consort, Camilla Parker Bowles has made a unique transformation.
everyone having a right to a safe and stable home.
The door slammed with such force that ancient portraits trembled on Clarence's house walls. Queen Camilla stood frozen, her face drained of color. Princess Catherine had just delivered words that would fracture monarchy forever. What happened in that room? And why did Prince William respond with the most unprecedented royal sanction in modern history? The origins of a royal storm. Behind the gilded gates of Buckingham Palace, beneath the carefully orchestrated smiles and coordinated public appearances, a storm had been brewing for over a decade. Two women, two visions of what the crown should represent, two futures that could never coexist. The world knew them as Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales. But palace insiders whispered of something far more complex. A tension so deep, so personal, that it threatened to tear apart everything King Charles had worked to build. How did we get here? When did the fairy tale turn into a nightmare? The seeds of this conflict were planted long before Charles wore the crown. From the moment Catherine Spencer stepped into William's life, she represented everything Camilla both feared and resented. Youth, public adoration, the ghost of Diana's legacy walking among them once again. Camilla had fought for decades to earn her place beside Charles. She had endured the scorn, the comparisons, the whispered judgments. She had transformed herself from mistress to queen consort through sheer determination and strategic patience. But Catherine seemed to glide effortlessly into the public's heart. Her working-class roots, which should have been a disadvantage, became her greatest strength. The people saw authenticity where they once saw calculation, and that difference would prove catastrophic. Do you think Catherine's natural popularity threatened Camilla's carefully constructed image? Share your thoughts below. But first, you need to hear what happened when these two queens finally faced each other without palace protocol to protect them. Because what unfolded behind those ancient doors would change the monarchy forever. The explosion at Clarence's house. It was supposed to be routine. A simple strategy meeting at Clarence's house to discuss upcoming royal engagements. King Charles sat at the head of the mahogany table, his reading glasses perched as he reviewed the calendar. William and Catherine took their usual seats, notebooks ready. But Camilla arrived with something different in her eyes that day, something that palace staff would later describe as volcanic. The conversation began pleasantly enough. Summer events, charity galas, the usual choreography of royal life. Then came the moment that changed everything. Do we really need Catherine at every single engagement? Camilla's voice cut through the polite discussion like a blade through silk. The room fell silent. Charles looked up from his papers, his face registering shock. William's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. But Catherine, ever the diplomat, responded with characteristic grace. I believe service to the crown requires presence, she said quietly, her hands folded in her lap. The people deserve to see their future queen. That word, queen, hung in the air like a challenge. Camilla's eyes flashed. Future queen, she repeated, the words dripping with disdain. How interesting. Diana thought she was a future queen too. The invocation of Diana's name shattered the last pretense of civility. Catherine's composure cracked, just slightly, but enough for everyone to notice. She stood slowly, her chair scraping against the Persian rug. I think we're done here, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As she moved toward the door, William rose like a man possessed. His face had transformed from diplomatic calm to something far more dangerous. He looked at Camilla with an expression that would haunt palace staff for months. Don't, he said, his voice carrying the weight of generations. Don't ever speak of my mother again. The door closed behind them with a finality that echoed through the corridors of power. The prince's decree. Within hours, the palace was in chaos. Not the visible kind. The monarchy had perfected the art of crisis management. But behind closed doors, staff whispered of something unprecedented. Prince William had issued a directive that stunned even the most seasoned courtiers. Never again would Queen Camilla share an engagement with his immediate family. No joint appearances. No family photographs. No shared platforms. It was, in essence, a royal exile. The conversation that followed between William and his father would remain private. But those who witnessed Charles emerge from that meeting described a man aged beyond his years. His shoulders sagged with the weight of choosing between his wife and his heir. "You're forcing me to choose," Charles had reportedly said, his voice breaking with emotion. "No, father," William replied, his tone steady but final. "She already made that choice for you." Catherine, meanwhile, retreated to Windsor with a dignity that only amplified her stature. She said nothing publicly, issued no statements, made no dramatic gestures. She simply continued her work, her presence a quiet rebuke to the chaos swirling around her. But those closest to the Princess of Wales knew the truth. The woman who had endured years of subtle insults, strategic undermining, and careful orchestration of her public image had finally reached her breaking point, not with anger, not with drama, but with a quiet strength that would reshape the monarchy's future. The media eruption. Within days, the carefully constructed walls of palace secrecy began to crumble. Royal correspondents, sensing blood in the water, started digging. Social media exploded with hashtags. The British public, who had long suspected tensions between the two women, finally had confirmation, but the response surprised everyone. Hashtag Stand With Kate trended globally. Hashtag Protect Catherine became a battle cry. The woman who had once been criticized for her middle-class background was now being celebrated as a symbol of dignity under pressure. The Telegraph ran a front-page analysis titled, "The People's Princess Rises Again." The Guardian spoke of a new chapter in royal history. Even international media picked up the story, framing it as a generational shift within the world's most watched monarchy. But perhaps most telling was the silence from traditional royal supporters. The usual chorus of voices defending the institution remained notably quiet when it came to Camilla's role in the crisis. Royal biographer Margaret Thornton captured the moment perfectly. The public has made its choice. They see in Catherine not just a future queen, but a bridge between the monarchy's past and its future. The numbers didn't lie. Polling showed Catherine's approval ratings at historic highs, while Camilla's plummeted to levels not seen since the darkest days following Diana's death. The weight of history. To understand the true magnitude of what happened, we must look back to the corridors of royal history. Never before had a sitting monarch's consort been so decisively excluded from the line of succession's activities. Queen Victoria's court had seen its share of family feuds, but they were resolved through exile or marriage alliances. The abdication crisis of 1936 had split the royal family, but it resulted in a clear departure and succession. This was different. This was a Cold War within the same palace walls. Royal historian Dr. James Pemberton observed, "What we're witnessing is unprecedented. An heir apparent has essentially created a parallel royal structure that excludes the king's consort. It's constitutionally murky but practically devastating." The palace's response was telling in its restraint. No official statements, no clarifications, no attempt to publicly reconcile the warring factions. Instead, there was a quiet reorganization of royal duties. Camilla's public appearances became increasingly solo affairs. Catherine's engagements multiplied, often with William or alone, but never again with her stepmother-in-law. The message was clear without being spoken. The future had chosen its queen, and it wasn't the woman currently wearing the crown. Two queens, two destinies. Camilla, the survivor, she had never wanted to be queen. That much was true. Camilla Parker Bowles had wanted to be Charles's wife, his companion, his confidant. The crown that came with that love had always felt like a burden rather than a prize. Now, at 76, she found herself isolated within the very institution she had spent decades learning to navigate. The woman who had survived the Diana years, who had weathered the storms of public opinion, who had gradually earned a measure of respect, was facing her greatest challenge yet. Those who knew her described a woman caught between defiance and despair. She had worked so hard to prove herself worthy of Charles's love and the public's acceptance. But in one moment of unguarded honesty, she had shattered years of careful image management. Friends spoke of her increasing withdrawal from public life, her reluctance to attend events where she might encounter William or Catherine. The woman who had once been Charles's strength had become his greatest vulnerability. Catherine, the inheritor. If Camilla was a survivor, Catherine was the inheritor, not just Diana's legacy, but the public's hopes for what the monarchy could become. At 42, she possessed something that couldn't be taught or learned: natural grace under pressure. Where others might have responded with anger or public statements, Catherine had chosen dignity. Where others might have sought revenge, she had continued to serve. Her background, once seen as a limitation, had become her greatest asset. The middle-class girl who had married a prince understood the people in ways that generations of aristocrats could not. Palace insiders described a woman who had found her voice not through confrontation, but through quiet leadership. She had become the embodiment of modern royal service. Approachable but regal, relatable but dignified. The contrast with Camilla couldn't have been starker. Where one represented the past compromises, the other embodied the future's possibilities. The new royal reality. Months have passed since that fateful confrontation at Clarence House. The palace has settled into a new rhythm, one that would have been unimaginable just a year ago. King Charles continues his duties, but palace observers note a change in his demeanor. The man who had waited so long to wear the crown now seems burdened by its weight. His public appearances with Camilla have become less frequent, more formal. William and Catherine, meanwhile, have emerged as the monarchy's new power center. Their engagements draw larger crowds, generate more positive coverage, and embody the modern royal image that the institution desperately needs. The children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, have become even more central to the monarchy's future narrative. Their interactions with their grandfather remain warm, but there's a notable absence of their step-grandmother in recent family portraits. It's not dramatic. It's not announced. It's simply the new reality. At recent state functions, the physical distance between the two women tells a story that words cannot. They perform their duties with professional courtesy, but the warmth once displayed for cameras has vanished entirely. Body language experts note how Catherine now carries herself with increased authority, while Camilla appears more tentative, more careful in her public presentations. The transformation is subtle but unmistakable. The monarchy is preparing for its next chapter, and it's being written without the current queen consort, the ghost of Diana. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of this entire drama is how it has resurrected the ghost of Diana, Princess of Wales. The woman who died nearly 3 decades ago continues to cast a shadow over the monarchy's present. In defending Catherine, the public has essentially vindicated Diana's memory. The people's princess has found her successor, and she carries the Windsor name with a dignity that her predecessor would have admired. Royal commentator Sarah Mitchell observed, Diana's sons have now both chosen their paths. Harry left the institution entirely. William has chosen to reshape it from within, with Catherine as his partner. In both cases, they rejected the narrative that destroyed their mother. The irony is inescapable. Camilla, who had spent decades trying to escape Diana's shadow, had inadvertently invoked it in the most damaging way possible. By mentioning Diana's name in that moment of anger, she had reminded everyone what the monarchy had lost and what it had gained. The King's Dilemma. King Charles III faces perhaps the most complex challenge of his reign. The man who waited 70 years to be king now finds his monarchy fracturing along deeply personal lines. Those close to the king describe a man torn between loyalty to his wife and the need to preserve the institution he has inherited. His attempt to bridge the gap between Camilla and William have been met with polite but firm resistance. Your Majesty, one courtier reportedly told him, some bridges cannot be rebuilt. Some wounds cannot be healed. The king's dilemma is both personal and constitutional. As a husband, he owes loyalty to Camilla. As a monarch, he must consider the institution's future. As a father, he cannot afford to lose his heir. Recent public appearances show the strain. Charles appears more isolated, more dependent on a smaller circle of advisors. His relationship with William remains functional but noticeably cooler. The monarchy's stability depends on succession, and for the first time in decades, that succession appears uncertain not because of abdication or death, but because of personal conflict that threatens to tear the institution apart. The people's verdict. Public opinion polls tell a story that palace officials cannot ignore. Catherine's approval ratings have reached historic highs, surpassing even the levels enjoyed by Diana at her peak. William's decisive action has been praised as strong leadership. Camilla's numbers, meanwhile, have plummeted to levels not seen since the 1990s. The British public, who had gradually accepted her as Charles's wife, now question her role as queen consort. Street interviews reveal a consistent theme: respect for Catherine's dignity, support for William's protection of his family, and disappointment in Camilla's behavior. She showed her true colors, one London resident observed. Catherine has been nothing but gracious for years, and this is how she's repaid. The generational divide is particularly stark. Younger Britons, who have grown up with Catherine as their future queen, see her as the natural heir to royal leadership. Older generations, who remember Diana's struggles, view Catherine's treatment as history repeating itself. The institutional response. The palace's response to this crisis has been masterful in its restraint. No official statements have been issued. No sides have been publicly taken. But actions speak louder than words. Royal engagements have been quietly restructured. Camilla's public calendar has been reduced. Catherine's has expanded. The message is clear without being stated. The institution is preparing for its future. Palace staff, speaking anonymously, describe a workplace divided by loyalty. Longtime servants remain devoted to the king and queen, but younger staff members gravitate toward the Wales household. It's not personal, one senior courtier explained. It's practical. Everyone knows where the monarchy is heading. The changes are subtle but significant. Catherine now receives briefings typically reserved for the monarch's consort. Her input on royal family matters has increased. Her public role has expanded beyond traditional princess duties. The children's future. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this royal feud is its impact on the next generation. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis have been shielded from the worst of the conflict, but children notice what adults think they hide. Royal sources describe how the children now interact differently with their grandfather when he visits alone versus when he brings Camilla. The natural warmth remains with Charles, but there's a noticeable distance when their step-grandmother is present. William and Catherine have worked hard to maintain normalcy for their children, but the restructuring of royal family gatherings has inevitably affected traditional celebrations and ceremonies. The children's public appearances have become even more carefully managed, with their interactions with extended family members orchestrated to avoid any appearance of taking sides in the adult conflict. The global impact. The British royal family's internal drama has reverberations far beyond the UK. Commonwealth realms are watching carefully as their head of state navigates this unprecedented crisis. International media coverage has been largely supportive of Catherine and critical of Camilla's actions. The global perception of the monarchy's stability has been shaken, but not in the way many expected. Rather than seeing weakness, many international observers have praised William's decisive leadership and Catherine's dignified response. The couple is increasingly viewed as the monarchy's salvation rather than its burden. Foreign royal families have taken note as well. The Danish and Swedish monarchies, which have successfully modernized their institutions, are watching to see if the British royal family can navigate this transition without permanent damage. The cost of conflict. The financial implications of this royal feud extend far beyond personal relationships. The monarchy's brand value, crucial for tourism and international trade, has been affected by the uncertainty. However, the impact has been surprisingly positive for Team Wales. Catherine's increased visibility has boosted interest in royal-related tourism. William's leadership has strengthened the monarchy's appeal to younger demographics. Camilla's reduced public presence has led to decreased interest in her patronages and charitable work. Some organizations have quietly shifted their focus to other royal patrons. The palace's budget has been restructured to reflect the new reality. Resources are being redirected toward supporting the future king and queen's activities, while the current queen consort's office has been scaled back. The untold private moments. Behind the public facades and official engagements, the private moments tell the real story of this royal fracture. Palace staff describe encounters that reveal the true depth of the divide. During a recent family event, Camilla reportedly arrived to find Catherine already present. The two women exchanged the briefest of nods before positioning themselves at opposite ends of the room. Their body language spoke volumes about the irreparable nature of their relationship. Charles, caught in the middle, has been observed trying to facilitate interactions between his wife and daughter-in-law, only to be met with polite but firm resistance from both sides. William's protection of Catherine has become legendary among palace staff. He now personally reviews her schedule to ensure no unexpected encounters with Camilla. His attention to his wife's comfort and dignity has been noted by everyone who works with the couple. The legacy question. As this royal drama continues to unfold, questions about legacy become increasingly important. King Charles's reign, which was meant to be a period of stability and modernization, has instead been marked by division and uncertainty. Camilla's legacy, once being carefully rehabilitated, now faces an uncertain future. Her contributions to various causes and her support Charles may be overshadowed by this single moment of poor judgment. Catherine's legacy, by contrast, is being written in real time. Her response to this crisis has elevated her from popular princess to respected leader. She has shown the world what modern royal dignity looks like. William's legacy will be defined by his willingness to break with tradition to protect his family. His decision to exclude Camilla from his future demonstrates a new kind of royal leadership, one that prioritizes personal integrity over institutional obligation. The road ahead, as we look toward the future, the path forward for the British royal family remains uncertain. The wounds opened by this conflict run deep, and healing will require more than time. It will require fundamental changes in how the monarchy operates. Catherine's role will continue to expand as she prepares for her eventual coronation. Her public appearances will increase, her influence will grow, and her vision for the monarchy's future will become clearer. Camilla's role will likely continue to diminish, not through official decree, but through the natural evolution of royal responsibilities. She will remain Charles's wife and queen consort, but her influence on the monarchy's future direction has been permanently curtailed. William's assertion of authority marks a new chapter in royal history. Future kings will look to his example of how to balance institutional loyalty with personal integrity. The children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, will grow up in a royal family forever changed by this conflict. Their understanding of duty, dignity, and family loyalty will be shaped by their parents' response to this crisis. The final judgment. In the end, this royal feud represents more than a personal conflict between two women. It represents a fundamental choice about what kind of monarchy Britain wants for the future. The public has made its choice clear. They want Catherine's vision of service, dignity, and authenticity. They want William's strength and protection of family values. They want a monarchy that reflects their hopes rather than their fears. Camilla's moment of anger revealed not just personal prejudice, but fundamental misunderstanding of what the modern monarchy requires. In trying to diminish Catherine, she inadvertently elevated her rival to new heights. The palace's response, or lack thereof, speaks volumes about the institution's priorities. By allowing the situation to continue without official intervention, the monarchy has essentially endorsed a new power structure. As we conclude this extraordinary tale of royal conflict, one question remains. What would Princess Diana think of how her son protected his wife from a very treatment she herself endured? The ghost of Diana continues to haunt the halls of Buckingham Palace. But perhaps for the first time since her death, that haunting served a positive purpose. Her legacy lives on in William's fierce protection of Catherine and in the public's recognition of true royal dignity. The monarchy has faced many challenges throughout its long history, but rarely has a personal conflict had such far-reaching implications for the institution's future. The choices made in that Clarence House meeting will echo through generations of royal history. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has emerged not just as the victor in this conflict, but as the emblem of everything the modern monarchy should represent. Her grace under pressure, her commitment to service, and her natural dignity have redefined what it means to be royal in the 21st century. The feud that was meant to diminish her has instead elevated her to unprecedented heights. The woman who was once criticized for her middle-class background has become the people's choice for queen. As for Camilla, history will judge whether one moment of anger was worth the destruction of decades of careful image rehabilitation. The woman who survived the Diana years may not survive the Catherine era. What do you think? Has William's decisive action strengthened or weakened the monarchy? Was Catherine's dignified response the right approach? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of the British royal family? Share your thoughts in the comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive royal insights. If you found this story compelling, you won't want to miss our upcoming investigation into the secret communications between palace staff during this crisis. The crown may be ancient, but the drama is timeless. And as long as there are royals, there will be stories that capture our imagination and reveal the very human struggles behind the gilded facade. Until next time, this is CelebCore, bringing you the stories that matter from the world's most fascinating royal family.